Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Javan Okelo, and I'm really excited to be here with you for a special live recording of the Madaraka Festival at Yuanru Art Center in Bellevue. With me here today is my brother Royce Yuen, who is a DJ, is DJ Royce, but also is the pastor and founder of Common Good Church in Bellevue, and is really an entrepreneur who has impacted so many people in our community. Beyond Mercer Island and Bellevue, I know that Royce does things even in Tacoma. I really want to thank you for all the amazing work you do in the community. My previous guest was talking about how thankless community work can be sometimes. And I feel like, you're one of those people who do a lot, and sometimes you don't get enough appreciation in return of the work you do. And I just wanted to, thank you for the incredible work you've been doing in the community.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, I want you to take us back. I want to learn some of the colors you grew up with, some of the sounds, some of the smells, and how they influence who you are today.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Even as you started with those remarks, I just wanted to, I think, reciprocate that. And I think it's one of the reasons why we've connected on such a deep level, right? I think a lot of the experiences and the things that we've gone through as community builders are very similar. And so I just want to say I appreciate everything that you do. And it's certainly an honor to be in space with you and to build together. So for me, I think, I've always seen myself as a bridge builder. And I think a big part of that was just some of how I grew up. So I grew up on Beacon Hill, and family was in Beacon Hill, but then later my immediate family moved to Mercer Island. And so I actually grew up on Mercer Island, but had my roots and connections in Beacon Hill. And I think one of the interesting things growing up was kind of this sense of feeling disconnected, like I didn't really fit into any one community or any one space. At the time when I was going to school on Mercer Island, it was a predominantly white community. And so I was one of the few persons of color, one of the few Asians. And so I think I always had a hard time fitting in school. And at the same time, me moving to Mercer Island, I think also created a little bit of a gap between a family that was still on Beacon Hill. Our family, I grew up as a 1.5 generation Chinese American, and so we grew up going to a Chinese immigrant church on Beacon Hill. And so I think one of the things that kept me grounded actually was the fact that even though we were that my brother and I were attending school on Mercer Island, we would still go to this Chinese immigrant church in South Seattle. And but at the same time, because I was living and going to school on Mercer Island, I think it also created a sense of not really fitting in and belonging to the community that I grew up in, this church that I attended. And so I think for me, one of the struggles that I went through early on was this sense of not really fitting in anywhere. But I think looking back on it, that really was, I think, the soil, I would say, that allowed me to kind of navigate what it feels like to kind of be a third culture person. And then what does it look like for me to, I think, create bridges and connections for other people like myself that perhaps had similar experiences of not really knowing where they fit in, what it really meant to belong, or even struggling and wrestling with identity. And so I think those are some of the big things that I think shaped and formed who I am today and the work that I do as a pastor, as a community builder. I think really at the heart of everything that I do is wanting to create spaces for belonging and for connection and for community. And in particular, I think to empower and help people really come to a sense of understanding who they are, and being able to embody that and to live freely out of that. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I want you to just share more about what you're one of the people who always advised me that Simon, just do one thing, But you're doing gallery together, you're doing common good, and you're also DJing. I'm sure you're doing other things. You're a father, of course,
Right.
So maybe because one of the things that I know you've spent a lot of time in over a decade is common good. Share with me why common good has been such an important part of your life over the last decade.
Yeah.
And then bring us to DJ Royce and gallery together.
Gosh, okay. As I mentioned, growing up, faith, spirituality was a big piece of kind of my identity formation. And when I think about this idea of who I am and who I was, because faith was a big part of that, I think that just stayed with me even as I became an adult. And so, I had no intention of being a pastor. I had no intention of starting my own church. But I think as I got older, one of the things that I realized was that because that was such a big part of my identity in terms of allowing me to find spaces of connection and belonging, that I think that then shaped how I viewed doing community work. So, the church that we started, really at the heart of it was creating spaces for people to feel a sense of belonging and a sense of community. Common Good, the name in and of itself, one of the reasons why we named the church Common Good was because we believe we exist, the church exists, people of faith. As people of faith, we exist for the common good and for the benefit and the flourishing of all people and all persons. No matter the race, their ethnicity, their age, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, mental or physical ability, or even spiritual background. And so that really was what we were trying to create, was through the lens of spirituality and faith, which I think is, for us, we and myself personally, I don't see spirituality as something that's contained in a little box. I think that spirituality, in whatever ways we engage with that, whatever ways we embody faith, and whatever tradition or expression that might be, I think that influences so many other areas of our lives. And kind of this holistic nature of, I think, flourishing, right, as people, that we are physical people, we are relational people, we are spiritual people. And I think what was important for me in the work that I was doing as a pastor and creating this community at Common Good was, I think, creating a space where people can have the freedom to learn and to express and to, I think, lean into those things in all of its different dimensions.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. When I think of the pandemic, and then I think of 2021 when we did Madaraka Festival in Bellevue, it was an opportunity that was confusing to very many people who have already been attending Madaraka Festival until that day, because we did it in partnership with a church. You know? So, from that moment, I feel like I began working very closely with you and seeing how you're moving in the community. So I feel that, and then you served on the board of One Vibe Africa for a while, So, and I served on the board of the church. So we've really worked deeply together. And you don't see a lot of that. Here you find that Chinese Americans work with Chinese Americans. Africans work with Africans. In fact, Nigerians work on their own. Kenyans work on their own. I'm probably one of the few people that always bring everybody together. Because even tonight, the food is Nigerian. The podcast producer is from Botswana. One of the bands playing tonight is from Congo. And so I feel that you've done a really great job doing that with almost everything you do. And I want you to take us to gallery together, because it's really a vibrant movement that you've been building. So speak to that for a moment before we go to Madaraka Festival.
I think when I think about all the different things that I do, and you asked earlier, speak to this idea of or the thing that I've recommended or suggested to you, right, is you can't do everything, right? There's only one Simon. And sometimes I think I fall into that temptation of, because I'm so passionate about so many different things, that sometimes feels so disconnected from each other, that it feels like we're just doing so many different things and we're spreading ourselves thin. But I think one of the things that I've really tried to do, and I think it's become easier for me to do, is to find what's the common thread that interweaves everything together, and then finding that common thread and allowing that to kind of bring things into convergence. And so for me, Gallery Together, I think really was this idea of convergence. I've been pastoring for, like you said, over a decade, and pastoring through a lot of challenging times. Sociopolitically, I think a big turning point for me as a pastor and in our church was, speaking of pandemic, right? Coming out of that pandemic, coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? What happened with George Floyd? I think all of those things left an impact and imprinted me in a way that I think, in a lot of ways, I think it didn't shift the trajectory of my work, but I think it focused it. And so when I think about this idea of me being a Chinese American, me pastoring a church that at the time was actually predominantly Asian American, but yet also acknowledging the fact that, like you said, so much of, I think, what I've seen within my own community is that we do things in isolation. But I think when I think about my own upbringing and, even me as a DJ, like, part of it was because growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood and feeling disconnected from the people that I was going to school with, and also disconnected from the people that I was going to church with, the one thing that actually allowed me to kind of find myself, which was ironic, was through music. And the particular form of music outside of the music that I was listening to in church was hip hop. And so, here I was, I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and one of my good friends, older friend, mentor, who grew up with Sir Mix-a-Lot and Kid Sensation, which are pioneers in the hip hop scene here in Seattle, gave me my first CD, my first CD was Warren G. And my first tape, which was a cassette tape, was NWA. So here I am, right, as a Chinese American, growing up on Mercer Island, listening to NWA and trying to make sure that my parents, right, didn't hear what I was listening to. And so that became formative in me. And so it was kind of just this weird intersection, right, of like, I'm growing up in school on Mercer Island. The two things I was passionate about that formed me was my faith and spirituality, but then music. And so here I am on Mercer Island. I start it's crazy. I don't like to admit it because it makes me feel like one of those crazy radicals, but I was kind of radical and crazy back then. So I start this Christian prayer club in high school. But simultaneously, I also founded the hip hop club. Mm-hmm. So we taught the 4 elements of hip hop, which is breakdancing, MCing, DJing, and graffiti, right? And for us, like, the thing that I was always passionate about is and I think because that was so formative in who I was and my identity, it was really important for me to understand, like, the roots of hip hop, right? Mm-hmm. So it was important for me growing up in a school that was predominantly white, that if we're gonna have kids participating in our club, we would actually teach the roots of where hip hop came from, right? And so all those things were really important for me. And so when I think about who I am today and the work that I'm doing, both as a pastor of a church, as a DJ, and now with Gallery Together, it's all those things coming into convergence. Mm-hmm. So art and music and culture, I think, are things that bring people together. But what we're trying to do is create experiences that are also inspiring collective joy, right? And building solidarity, right? So it's important for us that as we're creating and curating these experiences and these events, that we're not just doing an event that's catered toward one specific ethnic group, but that we're actually bringing experiences together that are actually bringing artists together from different backgrounds. And then being able to create these experiences that don't feel forced, right? Because I think one of the powerful things about art and music is that it allows us to broaden our perspective and to see things from a different lens. And, I think when I think about art and music, I think about it in a lot of the same ways that I think about even my role as a pastor. Like I talk about this a lot as a pastor, someone that communicates, that part of what my job is, right? Anytime someone comes to our church on a Sunday morning, that I want to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable, right? So it's kind of this two-pronged approach, right? Yeah. So those in power and privilege, let's disturb ourselves a little bit. But those who understand what it means to be minoritized and marginalized and oppressed, let's find ways to comfort them. And I think when we're curating experiences with Gallery together, we want that same impact and that same effect. That as someone steps into an experience, those that need to be comforted because they understand what it means to be oppressed and marginalized, minoritized, that this could be a space that empowers them. This could be a space that uplifts them. But those that would come in the space who perhaps need to be challenged in their ways of thinking beyond their own particular lived experience, that this experience would also then do that for them as well. So yeah, that's my long way of answering, like kind of how Gallery together fits in with everything. I think all those things for me intersect and converge in a way that I think all point to the same thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Madaraka Festival. Now you've been involved with Madaraka Festival directly, indirectly, in so many ways. What are your thoughts about Madaraka Festival at this moment? And we are doing it again August 30th.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah. We always talk about this, right? I joke with you because I'm like, one, I love you and I support you in everything that you do. But I think one of the tensions that sometimes I feel is I don't necessarily feel like I fit, right? The bill, so to speak. Why, you invited me to DJ your Juneteenth event, and that tension that I feel, right? I don't want to take up space on a holiday that celebrates the freedom of Black Americans as an Asian American. So I wrestle with that internally, but at the same time, I think part of my journey has also been, what does it look like for me to show up? What does it look like for me as an Asian American to be in spaces that can support and that can practice this idea of solidarity, right? So I think when I think about Madaraka Festival and you inviting me to come and DJ a set, at first I'm like, are you sure? Like, am I supposed to be here? Like, is this for me? But that being said, I think what I appreciate about what you're trying to do and why I think you and I connect at such a deep level is that even though we are doing the work within our own communities, we also see the importance of bringing other people into that work and creating these bridges, right? And expanding people's understanding beyond our own particular culture. Or lived experience. And so when I think about Madaraka and what you're trying to do with it as you've grown it over the years, right? I've heard a lot about your desire to make this a space that's not just a celebration of the African diaspora, which I think is super, super important. I think there's a place for that. But while you're doing that, you can still maintain the integrity of that while still creating space for others to come into that.
Exactly.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's really hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
Very hard to do, right? Where it doesn't feel like you're selling something out, right? Or you're watering something down. So, I'm really proud of you because I think you do it with such intentionality and with such integrity. And so I'm excited for how you're envisioning this upcoming Madaraka.
Yeah, I feel like it requires courage. It requires courage. Right. I won't say much. I just want you to look at this camera and invite everyone to join us on August 30th, Pier 62.
Hey, come out August 30th, Pier 62. Madaraka Festival is going down. It's going to be an incredible time. Amazing artists. We've got some DJs. I'll be there DJing as well. Come through, bring the friends, bring family, bring everybody out, and come and celebrate.
So look at the same camera and let people know how they can stay in touch with you and how they can support your work.
Yeah, my latest project, as Simon mentioned, is Gallery Together. And so that's really the project that I'm spending and investing a lot of my time and energy around. So if you want to come and support that, we're doing monthly pop-ups. We've got one coming up this coming Saturday down at Capitol Hill. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Gallery Together without the vowel. So Gallery, TGTHR. You could also visit our website, www.gallerytogether.com.
Hey all, thank you very much for joining me for this incredible episode of Madaraka Festival Podcast with my brother Royce Yuen. Stay tuned as I'm bringing 2 final guests before we wrap up our live recording of the Madaraka Festival Podcast. Thank you.